live. Showtime PBC. Why am I all the way over here? What's going on? Showtime PBC just announced. Here, let me pull. I put the fights that they're announcing down below in the description box. So I'm just hoping that. How's the sound? Can y'all hear everything clearly? How's everything going? How you guys been? Degenerates, I tell you. So let me pull up the fights that they have announced or are announcing. Let me pull this over here. See what's going on here. Let's see how we doing. Why is it saying my stream is being temporarily blocked for what? What's going on? It ain't that music they're using, is it? Okay, there we are. We're back. We're good. We're good. We're good. Yeah, so let me pull this up real quick. It's a lot to fucking read, man. Let me pull it right here. Steve Fulton versus Angelo Leo. That's on August the 1st. Tramaine Williams versus Aleem. Joe George. Yeah, all right. August 15th, David Benavidez versus Romero, Alexis, Angulo. Otto Wallin on that card versus Travis Kauffman. Rolando Romero versus Jackson Martinez. September the 19th, Erickson Lubin versus Terrell Gausha. Tuck Student AMBR returns versus Eduardo Ramirez. Jaron Boots Enos is on a TBA. Pay-per-view doubleheader, September the 26th, pay-per-view. We're getting Jamal Charlo versus Sergey Derevianchenko. Brandon Figueroa versus Damian Vasquez. And Diego Magdaleno versus Isaac Cruz. The other main event, so both Charlos are headlining their own pay-per-view. Jamel Charlo against Jason Rosario. Mario Barrios versus Ryan Carl. Danny Roman versus a TBA. Danny Roman is over there with PBC now. That's a big pay-per-view. I like that. It's nice. It's nice. That's hot. That's hot. We're going to talk more about it here. Let me make sure we're not missing anything. All right, there we go. October the 10th, Sergey Limpinets versus Kutrelo Akdukakhoorov. I was at his last fight in Philly. Xavier Martinez. That's actually going to be the winner of that. Is supposed to be the IBF interim champion to Errol Spence's mandatory. Xavier Martinez versus Claudio Marrero. Malik Hawkins versus Sabril Matisse. Matisse hasn't been seen since that unfortunate fight he had with Maxim Dadashev. He may have had one more fight after that, actually, maybe two. I don't remember. Maybe two. I don't remember. October the 24th, also pay-per-view. So there's going to be two pay-per-views in a 1 month span, a 30-day span, or within the same billing cycle, with Gervonta Tank Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz at 130 pounds. You know? So basically, no, wait a minute. They're doing. So basically, if both fighters weigh in at 130, they're fighting for both. They're fighting for belts at 130 and 135, like Mayweather did when he fought McDonough for the 147 and 154 pound titles. That's crazy right there. November the 28th, Chris Colbert versus Jaime Orboda, Richardson Hitchens versus Argenis Mendez. December 12th, Northern Obali versus Nonito Donaire. Now, this is the Showtime. I'm interested in what fights Fox is going to, announce. This is just Showtime today. It's actually better than I expected, to be honest with you. Oh, wait, I think it's time. It's time. It's time.
Take a look around. I'm standing on the edge, not afraid to look down. Life is a fight.
Good afternoon, everyone. I trust that all of you guys are safe, healthy during these pandemic times. Certainly want to thank you all who are watching for joining us for this huge announcement from Showtime. I'm Brian Custer, the host of Showtime Championship Boxing, and today we are here to announce that Showtime Championship Boxing is back. And not only are we going to give you the details on our return August 1st, which comes next month, but we're going to lay out our entire fight schedule for the rest of the year. We are here to give boxing fans what they have been craving since the sport returned. High quality matchups of the sweet science and really reclaim the mantle as the preeminent network for the sport of boxing. You might remember Showtime was the last network to televise a professional sporting event before the pandemic really forced sports to go on hiatus. Showbot brought you a fight card back on March 13th. No fans, of course, in attendance. We fast forward now some 4 months and a few weeks later, Showtime, along with Premier Boxing Champions, will make its return August 1st. Without fans in attendance, we will come to you from the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut with a world title fight in the main event. Two unbeaten fighters, and they are fighting for the vacant WBO Super Bantamweight title. In fact, our schedule calls for 9 live boxing telecasts that will take us through the end of the year. Those telecasts will feature 18 undefeated fighters. And we're going to do a one-of-a-kind first here. Showtime is going to bring you a pay-per-view doubleheader featuring back-to-back 3 fights. You're going to get 3 fights in the afternoon, 3 fights in the evening on the same day, all for one price, featuring the Charlos.
That's
in
awesome.
all, 8 world championship fights, including a unification fight, 17 high-quality matchups. I like to call them bangers. You're going to see some of the biggest names in the sport, from Gervonta Tank Davis, Leo Santa Cruz, Jamal Charlo, David Benavidez, Jaron Ennis. So let's get right to the schedule. You see it there. Showtime makes its long-awaited return Saturday, August 1st. The main event features Cool Boy Steph out of Philly, Stephen Fulton Jr. taking on Angelo Leo, unbeaten from Albuquerque. Main event, the vacant WBO junior featherweight title. Both guys unbeaten. You're going to hear from both of these young fighters as well. 3-fight card, and you see light heavyweights will open the show. August 15th, back in Connecticut, it is the return of David Benavidez, the 2-time WBC super middleweight champion of the world. You're going to have heavyweights as the opener for that card. Benavidez, without question, one of the most exciting fighters in the sport. David's going to join us as well. We're going to talk to him about his return. It's another 3-fight card. Again, heavyweights open the broadcast there. And then the next month, September 19th, it's hammer time. Erickson Lubin, he takes on the former Olympian Terrell Gausha in a WBC super welterweight title eliminator. This fight's important because the winner becomes the main contender for Jamal Charlo's WBC title. You also see Tuxta Nyambayar in the co-main there. You might remember he fought Gary Russell Jr. really tough back in February. And then you get that young welterweight star, Jerome Boots Ennis. He's going to open the show. Now, take a look at what we have in store on Saturday, September 26th. It is a Showtime pay-per-view doubleheader featuring 2 lions of the sport, the Charlo twins. In the afternoon, 3-fight card. The main event features the WBC middleweight champ, Jamal Charlo, against Sergey Derevyanchenko. We know what Derevyanchenko did against Daniel Jacobs, against Gennady Golovkin. A number of people thought he won that fight against Triple G. You also get Brandon Figueroa. He defends his title in the co-main. And then later that evening, it's another 3-fight card. The WBC super welterweight champion, Jermell Charlo, faces the IBF champion, Jason Rosario, the hard-hitting Rosario. It's a unification fight. So it's a full day and evening of boxing, and it all comes to you for one price. 6 televised fights. Mario Barrios, he's going to defend his title against Cowboy Ryan Carl in the co-main that evening. And again, keep in mind, the winner of Lubin Gausha will be watching that unification fight with the opportunity to face the top dog at 154, the unified champ. The Charlo twins, both of them, we're going to join us as well. We'll get the opportunity to talk to them about this unique Showtime pay-per-view event. In October, we're back on the 10th, and it is the hard-hitting Sergey Lipinets, and he's taking on an unbeaten fighter in Kudratilo Abdukokorov, and it's another 3-fight card there in October. And then on the 24th of October, Showtime pay-per-view once again, and one of the most exciting fighters in the sport, Gervonta Tank Davis, returns. And listen, people have been wanting to see Tank, they say, in a step-up fight. Well, how about a world champion he's facing in Leo Santa Cruz? This will be for the WBA super featherweight title. And basically, it is can power and speed top, punch output, and endurance. We'll find out on October 24th on Showtime pay-per-view. Now, in November, it is once again November 28th. It is Showtime, and it is Chris Colbert. You might remember Chris Colbert. Hey, Chris Colbert used to be known as Little B-Hop. Now he calls himself Showtime, and he'll be fighting Jaime Arboleda. You don't want to miss that at 130 pounds. And then we wrap up the year on Saturday, December 12th with the WBC Bantamweight World Championship as the unbeaten Nordine Ubali takes on Nonito Donaire. Now, members of the media, I'm sure you have a lot of questions. You're going to get the opportunity to ask questions, not only to the fighters. All we do is we ask that you select that raise your hand icon there on the Zoom, and our Senior Vice President of Communications, Chris de Blasio, will acknowledge you. You can unmute yourself and then ask your question. Now, we want to try to get in as many as possible, so please be brief. Before we get, though, to the fighters, along with Al Heyman and the people at Premier Boxing Champions, the man solely responsible for not only this return, but laying out this entire schedule that will take us through the rest of the year is the president and general manager of Showtime Sports. He is Steven Espinoza. He joins us now. And Steven,
hey,
the floor is all yours.
Do me a favor.
Brian, thanks very much. And thanks for joining us from Vegas, where you're attending to your other duties there, in a bubble of your own.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm sure we've had more than enough talk about bubbles, so we'll table that for now. Look, we're thrilled to announce what we believe is the strongest and most comprehensive schedule of fights in all of boxing. Meaningful fights, competitive matchups. This is what boxing fans have been waiting for ever since the sport shut down in March. Between March date, our last event on Showbox, and August 1st, there'll be 141 days that we've been down. Like everyone else trying to figure our way into this world, have spent a tremendous amount of time coming up with protocols, but also a tremendous amount of time coming up with this schedule. You know, from highly regarded prospects to emerging stars to big time champions, we put them all in tough matchups. This lineup really delivers on our promise to provide boxing fans with the biggest fights, the most exciting fights, the highest quality presentation in the sport. You're doing 9 telecasts, and I think without question, the most significant fights in the sport since boxing has restarted. So, you know, we're thrilled. We can get into the details of the fight card, but I think what strikes me most of all is this is a really high quality schedule for 5 months of meaningful fights, competitive fights, and fights which are really going to determine champions and challengers for the foreseeable future.
I know there's a lot of people in the media who certainly want to ask you some questions, Steven. Let me start it off, though. I'm just curious. it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to announce our return. You decided to say we're going to announce our return and then lay out the rest of the year. What went behind that thinking to say, okay, I'm just going to lay out the entire schedule?
Well, I think we had the opportunity to, with all this time, everybody starting from the same position. You know, we knew everybody needed fights. There was no jockeying around schedules. So we just put our nose to the grindstone and did it. I think, you know, wherever we can bring a sense of order and predictability to the sport, for the fans, for the fighters themselves, and for us in the sport to understand how all these fights fit together. You know, it takes some extra effort, but it's one of the ways that we think we can advance the sport by getting as much ahead of things as we can. In this case, you know, 5 months.
You know, the sport has already returned, and we've seen some matches on television. And listen, this is no shade at all, but when I look at the schedule, you call them high quality, I call them bangers. That's what fight fans want. Talk to me about not only the return, but it seemed like you put an emphasis on, yo, I want to make sure that we give fight fans what they've been craving for.
Yeah, we said it a few months ago at the start of the shutdown that we weren't just going to come back for the sake of coming back, you know, just coming back to do fights and put fights on the air. We wanted to come back at the high level with meaningful fights, with fights which would remind the public why they're excited about the sport of boxing, why they're boxing fans. So you put to a schedule of week after week of high quality competitive fights with big names, with meaningful fights. You know, before we know it, I know the sport is going to be back where it should be in terms of momentum and positive energy.
You know, I mentioned that we're coming back at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. Will all the fights take place there, or do you ever see us moving into another venue at some point?
Yeah, you know, our initial few fights are going to be at Mohegan Sun. They've been a great host so far, and we expect to work really well with them. Having said that, you know, these guys and the fans want a chance to interact, so we're going to monitor the situation and try and figure out if there's an opportunity to go outside of Connecticut, especially in front of a crowd. We would jump at it as long as we can do it safely. So I think for the initial plan is to stick at Mohegan, but we're going to keep an eye out, monitor the situation, and hope that we can get back to normal relatively soon.
Now, I know there are a number of media members who want to ask you questions. Before I wrap up here, I got to ask you about the September fight with the Charlos. I mean, that is a unique situation there. So you have a day, night, all for one price, 6 fights, 3 in the afternoon, 3 in the evening, featuring the Charlo twins, world title fight, unification. How'd you come up with that? It's really unique.
My sound is right, though.
Well, it's one of those situations. Jamal and Tramaine have always said that they wanted to do big events, historic events, events that are unlike any other, unprecedented events, and that's what this is. You know, you'd have to go back to those marathon Don King pay-per-views of the 80s, where you would have, you know, this many title fights on one card. And even on those fights, you know, 30, 40 years ago, you didn't see the array of talent that we're getting on September 26th. 4 world title fights, you know, a unification fight, you know, Jamal taking, you know, arguably the toughest fights of their careers on the biggest stage. It's sort of the crown jewel in the schedule right now.
Of course, the Charlo twins will join us, and we're going to ask them some questions and let the media ask them some questions as well. I know a number of members of the media have questions for you, Stephen. So with that, let me bring in Chris de Blasio. He's our Senior Vice President of Communications. And Chris, why don't you acknowledge the media members and allow them to ask questions to Stephen?
Thank you, Brian. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today. We're going to go right away to our first questions for Stephen. Manuk Kauffman from Boxing Scene and also representing Los Angeles Times. Manuk, you can unmute yourself, and you should be able to ask your question now.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Stephen. Hello, Brian. Thank you very much for taking the time. Awesome slate of shows, and congratulations for bringing it all together. Stephen, you're staging pay-per-view events in a pandemic. Are you somewhat uneasy that you've perhaps tapped fighters who've never headlined pay-per-views before, as you kind of look to make sure these events are financially responsible for you guys too?
Well, the reality is, it would be silly not to take into account the economic situation across the country. There are certain realities of that. There are a lot of people who have been squeezed financially. And that was one of the big motivating factors for why we structured it the way we did, was to try and provide, not just a value proposition here, but more value than we've seen on any recent pay-per-view. So, the reality pay-per-view is a tool to help fights happen that wouldn't otherwise happen. We understand that there are economic pressures, there are financial pressures here, but we think this is a great value proposition, and we think the market will respond. When you get this amount of quality on one card, it is a special, one-of-a-kind event, and we think the audience will show up for it.
A lot of conversations have taken place that perhaps the boxing pay-per-view pricing model needs to adjust amidst the pandemic. Have you thought about pricing yet? How much will these pay-per-views cost?
We have thought about pricing. Our pricing will be in line with what previous have been. I think over the last couple of years, we'll make that announcement fairly shortly. But again, these are fights, and
$75.
look at the quality and caliber of the matchups that we really have to go to pay-per-view in order to finance. So again, I think that if we rely on it sparingly and for the true top-tier events, I think we can do some business and do a great event.
And lastly, the dual pay-per-view is an exciting idea and something that hasn't been done before, and I'm pretty sure fans are excited about it as well. From a broadcast perspective, what is the biggest challenge about staging a show of that magnitude and that quantity and volume?
Well, I'd say it's probably the bladders of everybody working on the production. Brian's muted, but I know he appreciates this. Anybody who's got to be sitting, in a chair or behind a camera for potentially, 6 hours straight, if not more, is a challenge. We had explored the possibility of doing this over 2 nights, as WWE has done in the past. That turned out that it was too difficult and ultimately wasn't feasible to implement technologically with the distributors. So we said, look, we'll turn it into a doubleheader. We see doubleheaders in the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and this is a great value proposition for one price.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing with the Gervonta Davis, Leo Santa Cruz pay-per-view, I know a lot of those conversations early on before the pandemic was to bring the card to Los Angeles, namely Staples Center. I know that fight is 3 months away. How serious are you guys about moving the pieces to the puzzle around and perhaps reconsidering venue changes throughout all this?
We are definitely going to keep our eye on the market, on the public health situation. Look, everybody who's on the schedule would prefer to be in front of fans and interacting with fans, and being able to sell tickets and fight at home and things like that. But everyone on this card has also realized that we have to adjust. We can't put everything on pause because of the situation we're dealing with. We have figured out a way that we believe we can pull these events off with a minimum of risk. And if it proves that we can do that in other states in front of limited crowds or ultimately in full crowds, we'll make that move when we can. But I think as a group, the fighters that you're seeing on this schedule have said, I'd love to be in front of a crowd, but I'm not going to wait indefinitely. The sport has to go on, their careers have to go on, and they're all anxious to fight.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I appreciate the time.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks, Manuk. We're going to keep this moving. We have some of our champions and challengers waiting in the wings here to get on, make their opening comments and ask questions. We'll just take 2 more for Stephen. I'm going to go to DeMichael Cole out of Philadelphia. DeMichael, go ahead. You'll have to unmute yourself. Yes.
All right. Yep. Stephen, can you hear me?
Yeah, got you.
All right. As far as the Jaron Ennis opponent, what has to be figured out there, and when can we expect a decision on who he will fight and whatnot?
We're close. We're in discussions with a handful of guys. Look, there's for guys like Jaron and a lot of the top tier fighters that are on the schedule have gone through the same thing. There comes a point where it gets tougher and tougher to get them fights. Jaron's right in that in the standpoint. Like, he's a tough opponent. He's not at the pay-per-view level yet. So everyone looks at it and said, like, that's a lot of risk, and the price they ask for goes up accordingly. But we'll find him a quality opponent. It'll just take probably a few more days, hopefully.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, DeMichael. I'm going to take one more for you, Stephen, from Dan Rayfield. Dan, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me, Steve?
Danimol, how are you?
Hey, Steve. I love the pandemic haircut. Hope you're doing. Hope you're doing all right.
We're figuring okay. You still there, Dan?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, got you. We got you.
Okay. No, I was saying, and as it relates to the September 26th card, which is an interesting concept how you're going to do that, but just from a nuts and bolts perspective, what time would you go on the air with that first part of the doubleheader? What is the first part of the doubleheader? And then what happens in between, and when do you start that second part?
That's those are
the schedule
details that we haven't completely worked out yet. At a certain point, it may be between Jamel and Jamal to work out. But the reality is, they're two standalone events, with their own undercards. And I don't think it really matters who goes first. Sometimes you have a Lakers Celtics doubleheader. Sometimes the Lakers are in the first game, sometimes they're in the second game. But it's a great block of boxing, a little marathon. It's one of those where you can camp out and get some of the best fights of the year all on one card.
So yeah, no, my question really was not so much about specifically who goes first, but so you go through, you put on those first three fights.
Yeah.
Brian get to go take a lunch break and come back, and like a half hour later you start the next part of the show.
That's what we would like to do. Give the guys, and again, Brian is very appreciative of any chance to go to the bathroom, grab a sandwich, have a cup of coffee. So we'll take a break between the two shows, but it will be formatted as two shows.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
two shows with two undercards.
The other thing, it didn't say it on the graphic that Brian spoke about when he put it up, but in the press announcement, in terms of the Leo Santa Cruz and Gervonta Davis fight, it referred to the fight as being for both the title.
Correct.
Gervonta holds at 135 pounds, as well as the Leo title at 130 pounds. Reminds me of like the Sugar Ray Leonard Lalonde.
Exactly.
So is that sort of what they're going to do? Make the weight limit? Absolutely.
I mean, they'll both be weighing in at 130, but both the 30 and 35 titles will be at stake. And it is. We've done some research. I mean, the most obvious example is Ray Leonard, and it's something that's done very infrequently, and it's just a bonus for that event.
With Maidana.
And
for the second
to
fight.
Look at also this, and I'm not trying to be negative because it's a terrific schedule. Also, maybe a hedge of Davis's weight issues, that if he doesn't make 130, there's still at stake.
I think, look, he's motivated here. I don't think there'll be any problems making weight on this one.
Okay, and just one other question for you. Like I said, it's an excellent schedule. I wonder, there's one fight that sort of stuck out to me that is not on the schedule. I wonder if there are plans to add yet another event before the end of the year. You do have the fight that sort of lingers there, the Claressa Shields fight that I know that you were trying to reschedule.
Right.
Just
right.
What's the status of that? And
I
want to know about the protocols. That's what I want to know.
We were delaying this announcement a little bit to try and get as much in as we possibly could. Inevitably, there are some things that didn't quite get finished. So obviously, there's a couple cards which need to be filled out. We're looking, once we get the first couple championship boxing dates under our belt, we will start adding in show boxes. We'll have a date for Claressa. There will be other additional things on the schedule, as we go along. But this is sort of the meat of it.
All right, so you did say that besides that, there'll also be some show boxes,
Yes, right.
Okay,
Once
great.
once we get the protocols and we're comfortable doing that, then we'll add in the show boxes initially from Mohegan, and then to be determined as we go along.
Okay, Stephen, thank you. We're going to be available, obviously. Stephen is, and the door is open. You guys can reach out to us if you have more questions for Stephen later today or in the future. We're going to ask Brian to take us to the next phase. Brian?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Stephen, thank you as well. And I certainly appreciate the break between that doubleheader. Speaking as a guy who has no prostate, I really appreciate it. Let's move on. And we talked about that unique doubleheader pay-per-view that comes your way on September 26th. It features two world champions. They happen to be twin brothers. They're the Charlo twins. Jermall, the WBC middleweight champion of the world, and Jermell, the WBC super welterweight champion of the world. And they both join us now to talk about this unique pay-per-view event on September 26th. Fellas, first of all, thank you for the time. Certainly appreciate both of you being with us. Jermall, let me start with you because one of your monikers on your social media is the future of boxing. And it's one thing to be a world champion, another thing to headline a main event. But when you headline a main event as a world champion in a pay-per-view event, you have really hit the elite of the sport. Do you believe that on September 26th, you and your brother will show that the Charlo twins are indeed the future of boxing?
Indeed, we will show it. We would get a chance to, let everyone in the world see, the great thing that me and my twin brother has done for the sport of boxing.
I'm curious, Maul, what is it like for you and your brother to be training in Texas, Houston, and we know how that pandemic has been raging there. Has it been hard getting sparring, things of that nature at all, Jamal?
I mean, not really, but, of course, the pandemic made things like separate, from working out every day to working when we can. So, I mean, I work out at home here, so it hasn't been too tough for me.
Jermell, you have told me a number of times that you felt like you were the best fighter at 154. Now you get a unification fight against Jason Rosario, a big puncher, on pay-per-view, your first time. What does this opportunity mean to you?
Well, this opportunity is finally here. It's finally presented itself, and I'm satisfied with putting me and my brother and giving us that day because of the fact that we put so much into the sport of boxing, plus what we're getting ready to do. So, just giving us that day and letting this be a moment. I know my brother got his where he was the main event, and he fought last, and now this would be his time where he fight first and not fight last. It's all you guys in boxing always switching it up. And thanks to Al Heyman for everything he's done in our careers. And now is our time to be pay-per-view stars.
Can we get a thank you, Al Heyman? In the
Talk
chat?
to me about what should we expect when you get in the ring with Jason Rosario. I mean, the winner becomes the top dog at 154. He's a big puncher. What should we expect when you get in the ring with him on the 26th of September?
Well, I mean, you gotta expect. I've been boxing for so long, and it was always my dream to win multiple belts. So all you're gonna expect is me to get that W, to get that win dominantly the way I do it. And I don't want to leave it up to the judges. I learned that in my past, and these are the things that I have to do. I have to either win very, very dominantly, or I have to win by knockout. I've delivered knockouts, and at my weight, that's what I do, and it's unbelievable how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. And so I'm satisfied. That's it.
Jamal, man, Sergey Derevyanchenko. We saw tough fight with him and Jacobs. We saw him fight Triple G. A number of people thought he won that fight against Triple G. Jamal, do you see this as the toughest test that you faced at middleweight?
I mean, every fight is tough. I'm coming in prepared.
Yeah, of course, this guy is he's rated, #1 in the world. So I mean, he's gonna take his job serious, and so am I.
Jamel, we'll wrap it up with this. What are fans going to say about the Charlo twins after the night of September 26th, getting the opportunity to see you and your brother headline the main event on that night? What will they be saying about the Charlo twins?
They are boxing, and they pound for pound.
Wow. Like it. Let's bring in Chris de Blasio again. Chris, I know there's members of the media probably have questions for the Charlos as well. Let's give the media members an opportunity to ask them some questions.
Thank you, Brian. Same drill as before, guys. If you have a question, please press that raise hands button and give me a minute to sort through. We do have some in queue from moments ago. I'm going to start with, if I may, with Xavier Porter. Xavier, if you have a question, you should be able to unmute and ask your question. Okay, we're going to go to our next question.
Hello?
Oh, there you are, Xavier.
Oh, okay, you can hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Okay, first off, thank you very much for the time. How you doing, Mr. Custer? Good to see you again, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Charlo brothers, congratulations on this, this pay-per-view event for you guys. Congratulations. I know it's a huge event for y'all. I know y'all been training. Let us know exactly how excited for both of y'all are for this event to be, #1 and #2 per se to, fight. Have y'all decided who's gonna go first?
You gotta ask the question of either one of us. We can't both answer it.
Okay,
go ahead, Mark. Yeah, we haven't decided on who's gonna go first. We both just so excited to be, headlining, pay-per-view cards, separate times. So, y'all keep it locked. Me and my twin brother got something big in store for you guys.
Mel, your thoughts?
Like I said, my brother went first before. I know I'm fighting for multiple belts at this current moment. My brother defending his title. I'm defending mine. We both got the same titles at, different weight classes. And at the end of the day, what matters the most is us putting on that performance, Showtime giving us the platform, and we doing what we have to do.
Okay. Thanks, fellas, and good luck on the fight.
Thank you.
That's well said, guys. Thank you. And thank you, Xavier. Good to hear from you.
Thanks, Chris.
We're going to go to, I'm not sure where he went here. He disappeared. Marcos Villegas. Marcos, are you there with a question? I lost your hand. Perhaps you put it down.
Come on,
We'll
Marcos.
We'll try Reginald Woodson. Reginald, do you have a question?
What's your question, Reggie?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, fellas, Mr. Custer kind of hit on my thought with the sparring and the training, but you guys have access to, your own gyms and everything. So it seems like that would benefit you guys. With that, what's this downtime mean for your health going into your first pay-per-view headlining? What's that meant to benefit you guys and coming in fully, 100%?
Well, being well rested is important. Our bodies are definitely at a very good, stable position now. It's about getting better, working on things that we needed to work on. The downtime didn't do anything for me and my brother because we warriors at any time of the year. We don't expect boxing as a year-round sport, so we stay in shape. That's the name of the game.
I'm not no damn Team Hatley. We just wore the same colors.
I mean, we stay in shape, like my brother said. Like, we always training. We always ready. So it's just a time of our life where everyone had to go through the same thing, and I mean, it's a matter of time to get back. Showtime gets back to boxing, and we get back on the platform.
Gotcha. Last question, Jamel. I know you don't overlook anybody, but is it kind of a benefit to you that there's no, there's no surprise factor in Rosario, being that he went into Philadelphia in someone's backyard and took a belt? How does that impact your preparation?
That does nothing for me. It Rosario's another fighter, another man with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a mind. I just got to go in there and do what I do, and I'm gonna be destructive that day. And my job is to strip him for his titles, and that's what I'm supposed to do.
All right. Congratulations, fella. Great to see Showtime Boxing back.
I've been up since 5 a.m.
All right.
man.
Thank you for
I
that
can't wait for
question.
lunch.
Marcos, I see you back there now. Marcos, go ahead.
Chris, Jamal, congratulations. I know this is something that you guys have wanted for a very, very long time. So congratulations on that. I wanted to ask, the last time you guys double-headed, I know it had an effect with the loss that was suffered. I wanted to see your thoughts on double-heading again and seeing, what you guys can learn from that last experience that you double-headed coming into this pay-per-view.
The loss and me and my brother being on the same cards has nothing to do with anything with each other, because of the fact that we fought growing up on the same cards with each other. That the loss was just bogus. The judges didn't see what they seen, and that was it. But being on the same card gives us energy. It gives us a different type of fighting ethos. We want to be sharp. We want to be at our best. At our best. Normally, fighting on each other's cards, we'll be fighting minutes before each other. Stuff like that. So at the end of the day, yeah, we ready to fight.
And also, I wanted to ask, lately we've seen fights with no crowds. This is probably going to be the norm for the foreseeable future. What are your guys' thoughts on not being able to get the energy from the crowd and going into an empty arena and fighting?
We down. I'm down for it. Like, it is what it is. We can't do nothing about the pandemic. We can't do nothing about the sport of boxing. Taking a couple months off, but look, we back, and we're gonna enjoy.
I believe when you.
We're gonna go now to Keith Idek, boxing scene. Keith.
My question is for Jamal. Jamal, what did you think of Derevianchenko's performance against Gennady Golovkin, and did you think that he won the fight?
Nah, he didn't win the fight, but I mean, he definitely made it a lot closer than a lot of people probably expected. I don't think people knew that Sergey's style. They haven't seen him so as much as they've seen Golovkin. But like I said, the fight played out, and it was a lot closer than people expected it to be. But he didn't win the fight.
Jamal, what do you think it will say to people? You win this fight, like I'm sure you're expecting to win it. What do you think? What message does it send to people?
I mean, it lets them know that I'm ready for those big fights, the fights that everyone's asking me about. The Canelo, the GGG fights. This guy's been in there with some tough competition, but he's lost both times. So, it's still gonna put out numerous of questions for people to doubt me. But it's part of boxing. It's a step up fight for me, I guess, in the eyes of some people. But I'm ready to fight.
Danny Jacobs and Golovkin were able to put him down, but they couldn't put him out. What would it mean for you to knock him out?
And he didn't.
It would definitely deliver a statement to the world of boxing, to let them know that the power is for real, and I can get in there with just about anybody.
Thanks, Jamal.
Okay, I think we have time for one more. We're going to go to Cornerman Boxing for the Charlos. And then just so you know, after that, I'm going to put all the hands down in the queue so that we can move on to the next phase and a couple other fighters we have in store. You can check back in to ask a question in the next phase.
I like how they're doing this. So far, it's working out.
Cornerman
No
Boxing.
sound issues or
The
nothing.
floor is yours.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you for your time. It's great seeing all you guys again. I was curious to know how you guys felt about fighting without fans, but you answered that. Now, what do you guys have any predictions heading into these big fights? Starting with Jamal, how do you see this fight with Sergey Derevyanchenko? Action-packed fight. The fans love it. How do you see this playing out?
I feel like we're gonna both meet in the middle of the ring, and we're gonna let our hands go. Let the best man win. My game plan will be to shut his game plan down. So it's boxing. So we'll be able to see what goes on the night of the fight.
Right. And for Jamel, big unification matchup. You wanted this for so long. How do you see this fight playing out?
I mean, if he could take the power, we could fight all 12 and we could bang it. I could take a punch. He could take a punch. I don't know if he could take Charlo's punch, but he got a chance to go 12. But I'm going for knockouts. I like to set it up beautifully. I like to deliver it in a timely fashion of 12 rounds, and that's it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Wish you the best going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you to the Charlo brothers. Very excited to have you guys on the schedule and looking forward to seeing you very soon.
Appreciate it.
Brian, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Jamal, we certainly thank you as well. Look forward to seeing you both on September 26th. It's going to be one heck of a night. As we move on, we talked about Showtime Championship Boxing making our return on Saturday, August 1st. And when we return on August 1st, it is a world championship fight in the main event. Two unbeaten fighters fighting for the vacant WBO junior featherweight title. And joining us now, Cool Boy Stephen Fulton Jr. out of Philadelphia, taking on the unbeaten Angelo Leo. He's from Albuquerque, fighting out of Las Vegas. They join us now. Fellas, thanks so much for joining me. Looking forward to our return August 1st. Angelo, let's start with you. Out of Albuquerque, that's a town that has not seen a world champion since the late, great Johnny Tapia. I think it was 2002 last time he was world champion. What would it mean for you to become world champ representing Albuquerque?
It'd be the world for me. Johnny Tapia is a fighter I look up to. So is Daniel Romero. And to become world champion out of Albuquerque says a lot about my city. It says a lot about myself. So, I'm ready to take on that role to become a world champion and become Albuquerque's next champion.
Stephen, we know what Philadelphia is all about. I mean, it's a fighting city. It has always had world champions there. But if you're victorious August 1st, you would be the only person currently right now from Philly that's a world champion. What would that mean to you?
It means everything to me. I feel like I always hold Philly on my back no matter what. Rather it's 5 world champions, I'm gonna still have that same mindset. And, I'm coming to fight. I just want to get it on already.
Angelo, Cool Boy Steph says he feasts off of undefeated fighters. He has already knocked off 7 of them. He did an interview and said that he's going to beat you easily. Your response?
At the end of the day, it's a fight. He could boast about his resume all he wants, but we're both top 5 in the world. We're both undefeated. So it doesn't really matter once we get in there. He has beat undefeated fighters, but if you look between the lines, he's been rocked, he's been dropped in all those fights, and he's not untouchable.
And what do you expect is going to happen August 1st?
I'm gonna get the victory, of course. Whether it goes to 12 rounds or whether it goes less than 12 rounds. I'm going in there to win that title.
Cool Boy, August 1st, 2 unbeatens. What should we expect when Showtime Championship Boxing returns?
You should expect a fight. I'm coming to fight. He says he's coming to fight. We both coming to fight. Of course, I've been down before. Of course, I've been rocked before. And look where I'm at. I'm still standing. I'm still here. I'm number 1 in the division. I'm here to show y'all that.
Love it. Chris de Blasio, I know there are a number of people from the media who has got some questions for these young Lions looking to become world champions. I'll let you take it over so the media can ask questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Our first question is from DeMichael Cole from Philadelphia Inquirer. DeMichael?
Hey, Stephen. Good to see you again. For this next fight, have you looked at anything from Angelo yet? And if so, what are you excited about seeing? What you can do against him?
I'm just excited overall in every aspect of the way he fights, the way he, shows his skill that he supposedly have. I'm just excited to just be in the ring with him, just to display. And, sorry about that, just to display my skills. So
what's the biggest thing you want to take advantage of, with this opportunity? Obviously, it's already been stated you have a chance to be Philadelphia's only champion at this point, but I know there are a lot of other personal motivators for yourself. What are some of those things?
Personally, I just want to beat him, get past him, which I will do. I'm going to beat him, and then we'll talk about the future or whatever else I want to do. I'm just focused on this right now.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Great, thank you to Michael. We have Steven Espinoza. If we can set him live, Richie. Steven would like to join in the conversation here, make a comment.
Yeah, what strikes me about this fight in this card isn't just the quality at the top of the card with two young emerging guys fighting for a world title. This August 1 card has 5 undefeated fighters and one fighter with the loss. And the one fighter with the loss is actually trying to avenge that in a rematch on this particular card. So this is a remarkably high quality competitive card, top to bottom. It's not just, Fulton and Leo, although that one's a fight fans fight with no question. Each of these 3 fights is meaningful. It's among, top tier guys, rising stars. These are the kinds of fights that sort out future champions from the guys who came close. So of all the things, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of, big fights on this card. This August 1 card is sort of quietly, might be the most consistent top to bottom. I see 3 potential wars, in those 3 fights on August 1st. And the fact that it's sort of the first fight back on Showtime, I think is going to motivate all of these fighters.
That's great, Steven. Thank you. Set the table. We're going to go to Sean Zittel. Sean, you unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Hey guys, awesome to see you 2 young guys getting it on while you're undefeated. Awesome to see. Steph, you're never shy. Could you tell us kind of explicitly why you will beat Angelo, Leo? What's the difference between it? Is it your speed? Are you more creative with your punch variety? Why are you going to beat this guy?
I mean, I'm going to beat him because he hasn't been tested. Nobody he fought has really brought any competition to him. I'm going to beat him because I've been tested. I'm going to beat him because I've took those punches that put me down and showed that I could get back up. I'm going to beat him because I can beat him. My skill is better than his. My speed is better than his. I'm just all the way around better fighter than him.
Angelo, you seem more like a reserved guy, but same kind of question. When you watch Steven, and I'm sure you've had a chance to look at him, what is it that you got that tell us why you will beat him? What will separate you from him on fight night on the 1st?
I'm just more hungrier than him. I seen what he has. I seen that, I could break him down. I see his will. He doesn't have the will like I do and the heart like I do. And on top of that, I also have a lot of skill. And on August 1st, he's going to see why I'm undefeated.
Thanks, guys. Just can't wait to see the fight.
Ever since I got fat, I've been happy.
Okay, great. Thank you. Take a look here and see. We have a question from Carlos Toro. Carlos, you want to go ahead?
Carlos always yelling.
Hey, everybody, and thanks so much for taking time to talk to us. Brian, thanks so much for hosting everything. First question for Angelo. I remember a couple of fights ago that you've had. I remember it was Neil John Tabano. And I remember you said right before that fight that you thought you were on the path to a world title shot in maybe 2-3 fights. Well, we are kind of within that 2-3 fight window. Do you feel that back then you were already ready to potentially be a world champion? And as far as your skill set is concerned, do you feel like you needed a little bit more time? Do you think that the win that you had against Cesar Juarez, was that the fight that kind of made you think you're ready for the big time?
Definitely. I thought I was ready for a world title 3 2-3 years ago. So with this Cesar Juarez fight, you know, it just solidified why I'm ready for a world title. You know, I stopped him. I stopped Cesar Juarez in spectacular fashion. I dropped him in the 6th, and then I stopped him in the 11th. So that'll tell you right then and there that, you know, I'm in shape to go to 12, and I could still have my power, and I could drop you in the middle of the round. So, you know, I'm ready for anything, and I'm ready for that world title.
Is question for Stephen. I mean, your last fight, you were fighting, you know, at the Barclays Center in front of, you know, I think it was like somewhere between like 10,000 people on that night. Now you're kind of moving on to this empty arena type of setting. You feel like there's maybe a mental adjustment that you'll have to make when you have to step into the ring. I know the Charlos have said previously on this conference that they think that it's really not going to be much of a factor because when you're in the zone, you don't really see a crowd. Is that kind of how you're approaching it as well?
For sure. You know, I'm always looking to make those mental adjustments throughout the fight and anything surrounding the fight. But I would look at this like sparring. You know, in sparring, there's not that many people in the gym. And that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have a wonderful time, have that same sparring feeling, that same sparring energy, but just a little bit more intense.
So we're going to be here.
Thanks, Angelo. Thanks, Stephen. Best of luck to both of you on August 1st. Looking forward to the fight.
Thanks as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carlos. We're going to take one more for Angelo, Leo, and Cool Boy Steph. And it's going to be from Kurt Emhoff. Kurt, how are you? Go ahead.
Good. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Listen, fellas, 2 undefeated fighters. You guys were kind of considered prospects, you know, not too long ago. Now you're fighting each other for a title, but not only that, PBC has very quietly acquired some really great fighters in this weight class, and you guys have a chance to kind of rise to the top. I see there's Ray Vargas. There's obviously we got Brandon Figueroa, Daniel Roman. It's pretty loaded. So you guys looking forward to you know, emerging victorious and taking on some really good Louis Neary. I didn't even mention Louis Neary. I mean, there's some great fights out there for you guys. Should you become victorious? Have you thought about it?
Why don't we start with you, Angelo? Your thoughts about the other fighters in the division and all the possibilities that lay ahead should you have success on August 1.
Yeah, you know, the 122-pound division is a loaded division, packed with great talent, and it just makes for exciting fights. You know, this is what boxing fans want, and this is what we're going to give them. You know, great fights, the best fighting the best, and in order to be the best, you got to fight the best. So, you know, that's, if you're not in boxing for that reason, then you should be asking yourself, what are you doing in this sport? Because that's what I'm in the sport for, to be the best, and to do that, I got to fight, you know, the Ray Vargases, all the champions in that division.
And Steven, how about you?
Honestly, I just want to get past this guy right here, beat him. I'm not even worried about nobody else right now. But with that being said, all those guys, I feel like I'm the best in the division. Honestly, I am the best in the division. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm number one in this division. That's why I feel like I prove myself over and over and over and over and over, and I continue to do that, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. The guys like Louis Neary and Ray Vargas, they just lunch me. They food for me now. And that's just motivation to get past him so I can get those other belts.
Ooh,
I want to be the first undisputed 122-pounder in the world. If there ever was one, I don't believe it was one. I want to be the first one. I want to make history. I'm here to make history.
Philly, stand
up. And I've always been fighting the best.
Fuck them. Talk that.
Okay. All right, guys. Appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kurt, and thanks to the press asking questions. Angelo, Stephen, thanks for your patience and joining us today. We will see you next week in Connecticut.
See y'all soon.
Hey,
all right.
Ray Vargas.
Thanks.
Louis
Brian
Neary.
Custer.
Steve Fulton said you're
all right, let me tell you something. That's why I'm so excited about August 1st. When you hear Angelo Leo and Stephen Fulton Jr., you got to be excited about that fight card. And as Stephen Espinoza pointed out, I mean, you got basically 5 unbeaten fighters and 1 fighter with just 1 loss looking to redeem himself in a rematch there. That fight card from top to bottom is going to be stacked when Showtime Championship Boxing makes its return August 1st. So we move now to August 15th. And as I pointed out earlier, the return of David Benavidez, the two-time
Hopefully his nose is
WBC
clean.
super middleweight champion of the world. We're taking on Romero Angulo. David joins us now. Champ, good to see you once again. And hey, look, let me start with this because it seems like with you, adjust has been the key word, it seems like for you, because initially you had an opponent, he got injured. Then you had Angulo, supposed to fight in April. All of a sudden, pandemic hits. And when the pandemic hits the States, Seattle is really the first epicenter that this thing, when it came here, which is where in Washington State, where you train now. So what has it been like preparing for your return, considering that this virus first started there in that Seattle area and was raging there, has been tough sparring and just trying to stay healthy?
You know, first of all, I just want to, thank everybody for putting all this together. You know, I'm very excited to come back. We've been out of the ring for like almost about a year. I think my last fight was in September. So I'm just excited to be back in the mix again, being back on the Showtime podcast or broadcast. It was a little difficult getting this camp started because, obviously Seattle was the epicenter of the pandemic, but so the number one key we had to do was, just stay home, stay safe, train at the right times. Now that we got the fight in August 15, we brought a couple guys from different cities, so everybody's been tested. Everything has been good. I'm in my dad's gym, so we could train whenever we want.
Please like the video.
We've been having a great training camp
Thank
so
you.
far, and now it's just, getting to the date, getting there smooth, everything being perfect and, just getting in the fight.
You're such an exciting fighter. I think that's probably why you have so many fans. You throw those hands, and you've always said, hey, I'm a guy who feeds off the crowd. So what do you expect, man? It's going to be different for you, champ, to be back in the ring and no fans in attendance.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate right now. But, I think what matters most is the safety and the protection of the people. But, it's going to be the same thing, like the Charlo said, you kind of get tunnel vision when you're in the ring. But, my main goal right now is to give the fans at home the best possible fight I could possibly give them. Romero Angulo, he has a nice record. He has a lot of knockouts. I have a lot of knockouts, so it's going to be fireworks all night.
Yeah. So talk to us about what kind of fight should we expect, because he's a guy that comes forward. What do you expect on August 15th?
Angulo.
I'm expecting him to come forward. This is his second world title fight. So I think he's here to make a statement. I know he's taking this fight very serious. But I want these tough fights, I want these brawls, I want these barn burners, you know what I mean? I want to give the fans, I want to give the fans at home, what is it called? Like you're stuck to the TV and you can't move from it. That's what type of fight I want to give them, and I feel like that's what type of fight it's gonna be. Like I said, it's gonna, you don't want to blink because this fight is gonna end in a knockout.
I know there's a number of fans in Phoenix who, you were supposed to have a homecoming fight. Now you'll be fighting in Connecticut. What do you want to say to those people in Phoenix who were very excited, but I guess they're going to have to wait a while for you?
I'm not sold on.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate that had to happen, but I just feel like, the time's going to come. Just relax a little bit, maybe in my next year we could get a fight in Phoenix, a homecoming fight. But, right now, like I
love that
said,
Charlo card.
Everybody's safety is what's most important right now. So we'll get there with time. But, right now we're just going to have to enjoy the fights from home.
And before I let the media have at you, champ, talk to me about Angulo. You've talked about Angulo, the type of fight you expected to be a knockout. What do you see as the future for David Benavidez at 168 after August 15th?
Well,
See,
my
there
main
you go.
goal
What's
is to
up,
get to
Lawrence?
Caleb Plant. That's the fight I want the most. I feel like that's the fight the fans want the most. Since we're in the same promotion company, it's fairly easy. I was hoping to get that fight by the end of this year, but seeing the pandemic, it kind of messed up a lot of things. So, I want to get, I'm not looking past Romero Angulo. He looks like a great fighter. He looks like a strong fighter. So I want to get that fight. I want to get past this fight. And then hopefully by the beginning of next year, we can get to Caleb Plant.
Shout out to
Okay,
Showtime. This is
fantastic.
professional.
That's great. Chris de Blasio, I know there's members of the media have got a number of questions for the champ. Let's give them the opportunity.
Thank you, Brian. And hello, David. We're going to first start with Steven Espinoza. He'd like to add a comment here about this exciting card and David's fight. Steven?
Well, we're obviously thrilled to have David back on Showtime. He is, without question, one of the most exciting young fighters in boxing. Skilled, exciting, charismatic. Someone that that to the extent that you haven't seen him fight, I think you're in for a treat. But again, on this particular card, we can't just focus on the main event. You've got two really compelling co-features here. Speaking of someone who's exciting to watch, Rolando Romero, clearly fits that bill. If you haven't seen him, make sure to tune in. He is one of the most exciting young fighters as well. Younger than David, but fireworks, very entertaining fighter. And then the opening bout, two high quality heavyweight fights will match up. In this case, two heavyweights who both suffered from and eventually
this is
recovered
only the third
from
card.
COVID.
We're gonna be here all
Otto
night, guys.
and
for real.
the entire Kauffman family. Not just Travis, but his young child, his wife, his father. Thankfully, I think they've all recovered. But it's three intriguing fights there, headed by the return of David Benavidez at Showtime. This is, another one top to bottom, a really high quality event.
Okay, great. Thank you, Stephen. Our first question is going to be from Gerardo Arencibia. I hope I pronounced that right. Gerardo, your line is open.
Hello. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, hi. First of all, I'd like to say it's great to see that everybody's back doing something that resembles work. It's a good thing. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see you guys. David, congratulations on the upcoming fight. This is actually more of a question. Well, it's a question for the fighter, but if Steven Espinoza wanted to join in and give his take on it, I don't know if he can. I'd like to hear his take.
Controversy is of utmost high social standing considering his donation of $45.
Some fighters saying, listen, they understand.
This is a test super chat alert for $45.
Some fighters not so much. We've got promoters that are kind of pushing in the direction towards maybe paying fighters less. Is this something? And in fairness, I've only got to ask one PBC fighter, and this PBC fighter is Vito Milnecki Jr. told me no, that he doesn't expect to see any cut in his purse. Are you expecting this? Have you heard any of this? And do you think, if you haven't, do you think that this is that fighters are right to feel that this is unfair?
I mean, definitely. When somebody gets their pay gets cut, it's some people always think it's not fair, but my contract has stayed the same. Everything in my deal has stayed the same with this fight, the next fight. But if I have to take a pay cut, then I will take a pay cut. That's up to my managers and my promoters, and y'all
heard him say it, y'all.
To an agreement, you know what I mean? But as of everything, I feel like my fights, I give the best fights I could possibly give. They're very exciting, for the fans, whether they're at home or they're live. So I feel like everything should stay the same with me. But if we had to come to an agreement, we could definitely come to an agreement.
Okay.
It's too
the next
late.
question I want to ask you, recently on your social media, you posted an interesting picture. It caused a bit of an uproar, I feel. I don't know if I have to describe it to you, but it's David Benavidez sitting on a throne, and for brevity's sake, everybody else bowing down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's definitely that's where the point I want to get in my boxing career, where everybody has to bow down to me. I feel like I'm the best fighter, 168 at super middleweight. I'm just not getting the fights that I want. You know what I mean? And of course, everybody's gonna get mad. All the fans are gonna get mad. This and that. But I didn't come to this weight division. I didn't come into the boxing, just to say another person is better than me. Obviously, my mentality is that I'm always gonna be the best, even if I haven't got the fights yet. I'm always gonna be the best because I train like a world champ. I am a world champion. And I train like a world champion, and that's always gonna be my mentality. I don't care if somebody gets mad because they think that because I said I'm the best. That's how I'm always gonna think, And if somebody's mad and they want to prove me wrong, then come prove me wrong, and that's what it is.
Okay, and the last question I'll ask you. I realize that this is I'm excited to see Showtime back in the game, but I watched some boxing yesterday. There was a middleweight at 168 pounds, super middleweight, 168 pounds. Edgar Berlanga did his thing last night. What are your thoughts on that? And I'll be honest, I saw a few comments on Twitter, the Puerto Rican-Mexico rivalry, Benavidez, Berlanga, maybe in the future. What are your thoughts on Berlanga?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Maybe he did his thing. Shout out to him. He had a great victory last night. But I don't even. Has there ever been a fight at 168 of Puerto Rico versus Mexico? That's what I'm just thinking right now. So that could definitely be a great rivalry down the line. Just let him prove himself, and then I'll be more than happy to fight him. When the time is right. I'm here to fight the best of the best. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Gerardo. We're going to go now to Norm Fraunheim. Norm, if you unmute yourself, your line should be open.
Yeah, I got you, Chris. How you doing?
Great.
Hey, David, how are you?
Doing good. And yourself?
Good, good. You mentioned Phoenix. I know it's been a while since I can't even remember the last time you fought here. If you could go back and tell me how important it is to reconnect with the Phoenix fans. I know a lot have been made of that April fight, and when was it finally decided that you would not fight in Phoenix against Angulo?
Well, I was supposed to fight. Was it April something? I don't really remember what it was, but I think it was about 4 weeks before that they made the decision to cancel the whole card, and that's when the pandemic really hit. But I've been wanting to go back to Phoenix. I told myself the last time I fight in Phoenix that when I went back, I was going to go back a world champion, so it really meant a lot to me, going back, and unfortunately it didn't happen, but it's for the best. I wouldn't feel right if the fight would have happened and then there would have been, a lot of people getting affected and at my fight, so I feel like, the time will come, the time will come soon enough. I just feel like everything needs to cool down a little bit more, but I'm definitely, I'm barely 23 years old. So I still definitely have a lot of time to, no matter how long this pandemic takes, I'll definitely be back in Phoenix fighting in front of my crowd and in front of my people, and I just want to tell everybody to relax and it'll happen soon.
Let me ask you about this. Over the last several weeks, you have been linked as a possibility to fight Canelo in September. How real was that?
I think everybody's a possibility right now. I seen he gave Jason Quigley, an offer. I think everybody's just sitting back and just watch and seeing what happened. I have the belt. I have a WBC belt at 168. So I'm pretty sure it was very real. But I never got an offer. I just heard.
Never got an offer. It was just okay. You're 23 now. You're still 168. You foresee yourself at light heavyweight here sometime soon?
Yeah, I think so. But as of right now, there's a lot of great fights at 168. Obviously, there's Caleb Plant,
right?
There's Callum Smith, there's Canelo, there's Billy Joe Saunders. There's so much great fighters at 168, and there's a lot of great fights to be made. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna be here until I make all those fights. I have a long time in this boxing game. I still have about 10, 13 years, in boxing left. So I don't have to move up too quick. I think as soon as I get all these fights and get all the belts I want to get at 168, then it's time to move up to 175. But as of I'm staying at super middleweight right now for a while.
All right. Well, looking forward to your fight, and say hello to your brother Jose.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Norm. Okay, we're going to go to Cameron Buford next. Cameron, you've been waiting patiently through all this. Appreciate your patience. You're open with David now.
Hey guys, thanks for making time for us. Brian, Chris, David. David, I got a question for you. You touched on it a little while ago with Seattle and the Renton area being kind of the pandemic, epicenter of the pandemic. How have you been able to kind of keep your mind clear during this situation, and then just your mind healthy and your body obviously healthy enough to fight? What you been doing during this time?
I just been doing the same thing I always do, in camp, pandemic and no pandemic. I just stay home, come to the gym. My dad has his own gym, so every time I come train, there's nobody here. So, everything has been, pretty much the same. I just try not to go to the store at all no more. Yeah, like I said, we just train, we run, go back home and start the same thing the next day. Everything kind of really stayed the same.
Have you learned anything about yourself through this process, whether it be quarantine or just, I know you spent a lot of time with your brother and your dad already, but have you learned anything about yourself during this time?
Well, yeah, I just been trying to pick up a few father tips because I'm about to be a father on September 5th. So I'm very excited.
Congratulations.
And just getting a little bit more motivation. I mean, I was already extremely motivated as it is, and now that I have my own, my own child coming in the world, I'm just, I'm just at another level motivated right now. I'm just, excited. I know everything I have to do right now, and just, I'm just staying ready and just trying to get these fights, man. I mean, I feel like, my fans have been waiting for me for a while. Like I said, I haven't fought like in a year. I feel like I bring a lot of value to boxing, especially to PBC. My fights are always exciting, so I feel like the fans have been waiting to see me back, and I'm very excited to come back.
Congratulations, sir. Look forward to seeing you in the ring.
Thank you.
No doubt they're exciting fights. Thank you, Cameron. We're going to go one more question here from Ryan O'Hara. Ryan, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You can. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, David. Ryan O'Hara with the Ring Magazine here. Question for you, I'll make this quick. So, obviously you're trying to get the big fights, in your weight class, 168 pounds. How frustrating is that for you? And do you think that it's a matter of, guys not wanting to fight you, or do you think it's more from a business perspective? What's your honest take on that? And, I'd also like to get your thoughts on Caleb Plant. Do you think that would be a competitive fight as well?
Well, to be honest, it's not really that frustrating. It's just that getting back into it. I had just recently won my belt back in September. And I think I would have got these big fights by the end of the year if this pandemic wouldn't have hit. I mean? I was supposed to fight already in April. I probably would have had two fights by now, by around this time. So, I think this COVID, it just impacted everything. It's not me that it impacted. It impacted everybody in the world. So everybody has to move, at a slower pace and then used to moving. I feel like we're on track to get back on there. It was a little frustrating because I feel like I was already, on my way to getting these big fights, but obviously this slowed everything down. But it's probably for the best, so everybody can be safe. Everybody, the whole world needs to recover for this. I don't think we have to just talk about boxing. The whole world has to recover before we can move forward. But yeah, man, like I said, hopefully by next year I could get a fight with Caleb Plant if everything goes good. It's definitely a fight I want. I feel like that's definitely a fight the fans want and boxing, needs in the middleweight division. And, he's a great fighter. I'm a great fighter. And I feel like, we just need to get this fight going. There's a lot of bad blood there. So I feel like it's a great fight for boxing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you, David. Brian Custer, you want to take us home? I think it's time to wrap this up.
All right, champ. Thank you very much. And hey, congratulations on that baby boy. Looking forward to seeing little David Benavidez as well.
Thank you, man. I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Absolutely. Certainly want to thank all of the fighters who joined us, Jamel and Jamal Charlo, Stephen Fulton, Angelo Leo, and of course the champ, David Benavidez as well. Folks, there you have it. Showtime Championship Boxing makes its return August 1st. In all, 9 live boxing telecasts that will take us all the way through the end of the year. We got you that one-of-a-kind pay-per-view event that comes your way in September the 26th, where you have the Charlos back-to-back fight, 3 fights, 3 in the afternoon, 3 in the evening, all for just one price. And of course, the Charlos both defending their titles in the main event unification fight. For Jamel Charlo, we will find out who is the top dog at 154. Another pay-per-view fight as well with Gervonta Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz. 8 in all, 8 world championship fights coming to you. A total of 17, as you heard Stephen Espinoza call them, 17 high-quality matchups. I call them bangers. That's what we're going to bring to you. That's what we're bringing to the sport. And again, reclaim the mantle as the preeminent network for the sport of boxing. It will be a great fourth quarter for Showtime Championship Boxing. We are proud to be coming back, and we cannot wait to see you August 1st. So for Chris de Blasio and for our president, Stephen Espinoza, I'm Brian Custer. We'll see you August 1st at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. Thanks for watching.
All right, how you guys feeling about that? You guys feel about that? It's the pandemic. It's going to be interesting, to see what them pay-per-view buys are going to be. But if UFC are doing 1.3 million or so across platforms, then Jamal Charlo versus Sergey Derevyanchenko and Jamel Charlo versus Jason Rosario, I think that's pay-per-view. Well, depends on how you look at it. And I know why they had to do it on pay-per-view. The Charlos had to do it on pay-per-view. What's wrong with my volume? How we doing? Can y'all hear that now? How's that doing? It's doing a little bit better. The card is likely going to be $75. Steven Espinoza at the beginning was saying that, it's going to be